Are you planning a trip to Big Bend National Park?
Well, then join us,
Terry
and Tracy, as we share our top 10 tips for exploring Big Bend National Park. We went in February of 2025. We live in Texas, and it's been a long time since we've been to that area. We've actually never been to Big Bend National Park, and we knew right away that it's a place that we want to go back to. So let's start with tip number 1. Consider what time of year that you want to go.
Well, first I'd have to say is not in the summer. Very hot down there. It's a desert climate. Actually, there's 3 ecosystems there. You got the mountainous area, you got the desert, and you got along the Rio Grande, which gives you cottonwoods and some of the vegetation. But summertime is hot. It wouldn't be very pleasurable to be down there in the summertime, even if you're up in the mountains. The best time is from November, the fall, November through April, the spring. Probably the most popular time is around February to March. We were there in February. It wasn't too crowded though. It was not. The weather was nice though. It got a little cold on some of the days, but most of the days it was very nice.
Yeah, people tell us to avoid the school holidays if you can. Anytime school is out, it's going to be more crowded. And even though it's a very big park with about 1,200 square miles, the accessible areas tend to be concentrated with people. So you have to consider that they do have lines getting into the park on those crowded times. So also we encourage you to check the website for closure. Sometimes it's trails or other things that might be closed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Speaking of closure, when we were there in February, they told us that the Chisos Basin was going to be closed as of this July, starting July of 2025, for about 2 years. That is a very nice area because that's the higher elevation area. They have a restaurant, they have a gift shop, they have a campsite or a campground there, and a lot of trails. So for them to close that, and the reason they're closing is because that road is windy and it's hard to get up, and they're going to have these big construction trucks going back and forth, so they can't afford to have people going up there. So that's a little sad, but hopefully they can get it done quicker than 2 years.
There's actually a lodge up there, and they're going to remodel it. And the ranger said it was kind of a 1950s style lodge, so they're remodeling that. There's a restaurant up there, so it'd be really nice when it's done. I would still go while the area is closed, just knowing that you're not going to be able to access that area, which is just gorgeous. But there's so much else to do in the park. I think it's worth a trip, but you definitely want to go back when you can get into the Chisos Basin. Tip number 2, consider how remote the park is.
Yeah, the park is extremely big, as you probably are aware of. You know, we drove from our house. It was just under 300 miles. 300 miles to get to a town called Marathon, small town, and it's just outside of the park. The reason we did that is, of course, we don't like going over 300 miles in a day, so that was a good stopping point. Had one nice RV park there. It was called the Marathon Motel
and RV park.
Yeah, which was pretty nice for a remote area. It's in a desert area, so you got to expect that. But it had pull-throughs. We were able to stay hitched up and had full hookups and all that, and had everything you need: washer, dryer, showers. That if you needed, even had a little courtyard area that was real pretty. That they do some on the weekends, some live music and things like that. But it's only a 10-minute walk to the downtown area, so it's about maybe a quarter mile away. You just walk down this sidewalk to get to downtown, which has several amenities there.
Yeah, there's the Gage Hotel, which has a 5-star restaurant. It has a spa, it has an art gallery, and it's a really nice place. Even if you're not staying there, you can walk through the lobby and see how beautiful that is, or eat at the restaurant. Also, they have a garden. You can go to the Gage Gardens. And in town, you can walk around, see some of the eclectic housing, see some historic buildings, and they have a French grocer where you can get all kinds of surprisingly interesting provisions, and I think it's a great place to build a charcuterie board. They have all the amenities for that. It's also a dark sky area, and so you can definitely see some beautiful stars at night. They have star parties there. at the RV park. And when you're in that area, whether it is at Marathon or as you get into Big Bend, be conscientious of light pollution from your rig. You don't want to have any outside lights on, and minimize your interior lights as the sun goes down for the enjoyment of people who are stargazing. And if you need to get out, they recommend that you take a flashlight that has a red filter on it to minimize that glare that others will have when they're looking at stars.
And that, we mentioned the park being very large, because from Marathon you go through the park entry point, and it's about an hour drive to get to Panther Junction, which is sort of the center part of the park. We did fill up with diesel in Marathon to make sure we had enough gas. You get to Panther Junction, and then we stayed on the east side of the park for the first 3 days, because it's so big, and then we moved to the west side of the park for the next handful of days, 4 or 5 days, to be able to see most of the stuff over there. So we did half the park on one part of it. So it's good to break it up, because it is such a large park.
Yeah, that way you're not zigzagging across the park and wasting time and driving. So that brings us to step number 3, is to be prepared.
Yeah, definitely. The cell coverage is very sparse in certain areas. When we were down in Rio Grande Village, there was really there wasn't any cell, other than if you needed to use your phone, you had to go into the convenience store, and they had Wi-Fi to be able to access the internet. But we did have Starlink, so we were able to do that from our rig. But
great.
But the cell phone coverage is hardly. I mean, there'll be spots where you'll find some, but it's very rare.
It's not reliable at all.
And we use the walkie-talkies from the standpoint of communicating to each other when we're, of course, short distance away from each other. So that worked out well.
Yeah, you can also do a Garmin InReach that you can wear for emergency situation when you're hiking. Some people like to use satellite phones. I found out recently you can even rent satellite phones. But also, I think it's very important to know that you're a long way from a hospital. And so if you have an injury or illness, it's going to take you hours to get out of the park, perhaps, if you're on a trail, for someone to get to you. And then to get to a hospital, it's going to take another few hours. So we boned up on our first aid skills. We took a course, and also we have a pretty robust first aid kit that we keep in the truck. And then we also have a first aid kit, a smaller one we keep in our backpack, but we have some supplies that you might not normally have, including a tourniquet and some gauze for packing a wound in case you need that. If you are someone who's allergic to bee stings, definitely take an EpiPen with you. If you're someone who might experience hypoglycemia at times, we would recommend that you take some glucose tabs, and the rangers will always tell you to make sure you have plenty of water if you're hiking or even if you're just driving, because if you get stuck somewhere and the heat starts to elevate, you're going to get hot, and you can dehydrate, because it's a very, very dry climate. And so also we have downloaded maps before we leave home, so that you know where you're going, and be aware of the potential of encounters with animals. They have bears that call Big Bend National Park their home, along with mountain lions and rattlesnakes and other little critters. So you just have to be aware and research what you need to do when you encounter one of those creatures. And with the water, I was also going to say that we use electrolytes in our water. We like to do that, and gassing up your vehicle, as you said, is going to be really important. And there's a couple places in the park to get gas. One is Panther Junction. Whether it's closed or not, you can still get gas there, and at the Rio Grande Village. And we found the gas prices in the park actually to be pretty reasonable and less than what we paid at nearby towns.
Yeah, the nearby towns have their gas jacked up, I think is what it is, more so than, and the national park is more reasonable, which was interesting, I thought.
And the last thing I'll mention about being prepared is we also have a wellness kit with travel meds that we purchase online, and you go through a doctor, you fill out some forms, and they prescribe the medications. So there are things like antibiotics and motion sickness, and also some antidiarrheal, some different things like that are prescription meds that might be hard to get if you're in that area. And then you can contact that doctor or your own doctor to find out which med would be appropriate for whatever occasion it is. We also have travel, relocation, transportation, I guess is what you call it, insurance. If you have an accident or illness and you have to be flown out or transported by ambulance to a hospital, or if your rig needs to be moved. So we use SkyMed. There's different organizations out there that offer that level of insurance, and hope that we never need it, but it's something that we have in case we need it. So let's go on to step number 4. Be sure to stop at the visitor centers.
I mentioned the Panther Junction Visitor Center early on. That's sort of the largest one, and there's 5 visitor centers in the park. Some of them will probably be closed when you're there. The one we first passed when we entered was closed for remodel or whatever. We just heard that Panther Junction is going under a remodel now that we're back. But that is a nice one. They have a 20-minute video there. They have a lot of good information resources. And then also, Tracy mentioned that there is a gas station about 100 yards down from the visitor center there at Panther Junction to help get you fueled up. And that's sort of in the center of the park, I think you would say. But there's other visitor centers over in Rio Grande Village and over by Santa Elena Canyon in that area. And up in Chisos Basin, there's one there too. But all great resources.
Yeah, and the rangers and the volunteers love to talk to visitors, and they have really good information and some inside information that you might not get otherwise. So let's go on to step number 5. And that is the good stuff. Let's talk about camping.
Yeah, the campgrounds. They have 4 campgrounds officially there inside the park. And over on the east side, which is where we went first, the Rio Grande Village has 2 in that area. One is called the Rio Grande Village RV Park, which is a full hookup parking lot. It has about 25 sites. It's probably a little bit bigger than a parking lot in that it's, you have a little bit of space between the RVs. You can park your vehicle, in between it. But it has trees, and it's a quick walk, very short walk to the convenience store, laundry, and the showers. So if you needed to have access there. And that's about, you have to reserve that via telephone, not the recreational.gov. You have to call, and you call, who you call on that?
It's Aramark. It's a concessionaire, and we're going to put the phone number here on the screen so you'll have that.
And then the other campground, which is about a quarter of a mile down the road there, is called the Rio Grande Village Campground. So the difference is one's called an RV park, one's called a campground. They have a dump station down there, but they do not have any hookups at all. There is water spigots there that you can get some water, but they also have a generator section and a non-generator section. You can reserve that on recreational.gov, and actually all the other ones you can in that park. They have nature trails that come from there. They have a lot of wildlife there, roadrunners, javelinas that we saw when we were there. The nature trail takes you down to the Rio Grande, which is a short walk. So it's really pretty through there and well worth. And I think there's 56 spots there, and $16 I think was the going rate for the per night there.
Yeah, what did we pay? $36 a night for the Rio Grande RV park.
Full hookup one, yeah. And then if you go, now you go way over to the west side, the southwest side along the Rio Grande, there's a campground called Cottonwood Campground. It has no hookups. They do have water spigots for drinking water, and they also do not allow generators. It's real pretty. It has, of course, cottonwoods all through it. It's nice to stay there probably a couple of days, and I think the price is about the same. And then in the center of the park, up into the Chisos Basin area, where you drive up the windy road to get up there, they have an RV park there, or campground. I shouldn't call it an RV park. It's just a campground with no hookups. It only allows 20-foot, up to 20-foot trailers. So it's for very small trailers. Most people are in tents. I saw some Class C's and a Class B up there, motorhomes that you can take up there. The small ones, those are 24-foot is what they say the max on those are. Beautiful campground, but it's just, and it's a beautiful area too, because it's cooler up there on the Chisos Basin because it's a higher elevation. So, but it's, it's very limited on what you can do. So those are the 4 main campgrounds in the park. And there are, of course, some on the west side of the park once you leave Big Bend into the town of Butte and Lajita. There's some campgrounds there too.
Yeah,
We'll talk about that in a minute.
I think the Chisos Basin, they had flush toilets, but didn't have showers, and there's no laundry. But again, they're closing that whole area, not just the lodge area, but the entire area will be closed off. So that the work trucks can get up there. That those windy roads with hairpin turns probably going to do one-way traffic most of the time. And so we decided that we wanted to stay at the Rio Grande Village RV Park because we wanted to be on that side of the national park so that we could do things like visit Boquillos Canyon. We also went to the town of Boquillos, which is in Mexico, and so we were able to go to the port of entry. You have to go with a passport and then cross the river in a little rowboat. They call it the International Ferry, Boquillos International Ferry, and it takes you maybe 2 minutes to get across the river with someone helping you. And it's $5 round trip
per person.
And you can take a donkey or a horse or a vehicle up the hills, about a quarter mile up to the village. We decided just to walk. It was cold and windy that day, but we really had a good time.
Right.
And that town really depends on the tourists coming in to help them with their economy. We had lunch. We bought a few things at their store. And then we saw a lot of little children that came up to us trying to sell things, and they do take U.S. dollars there. Yeah. And those children are definitely hard to resist. The other things that we did on that side of the park.
Oh, go ahead. Well, one thing to keep in mind is you have to have your passport. You can't get over there without a passport. There is a port of entry for the United States, and then coming back, you have to be back before, or they'll make you stay the night there. That's at least that's what they told us. Yes. The Border Patrol told us. But it was about a 30-minute wait in line to come back. I mean, to go through to go through the port of entry on the U.S. side, which I thought was interesting. But it was a lot of fun, though. We had a lot of fun.
Also in that area is Boquillos Canyon, and that we went at sunset, and it was just beautiful. The trail was gorgeous, and it's a pretty short little trail. Along that way, you'll see little trail trinkets that Mexicans had made, and then they bring those over, and they have an honor system where you can purchase those things. The rangers tell you not to purchase them, and they say that it's illegal to have them, illegal to sell them. But anyway, that's what still happens there. Also, there's a hot springs in the area, and I think you mentioned the nature trail. The Rio Grande Nature Trail is really nice, and they have an amphitheater between those parks to the Rio Grande Village RV Park and the Rio Grande Village Campground. There's an amphitheater where they have ranger programs. Also, there's the Rio Grande Village store. A camp store.
It's like a convenience store.
Yeah, you call it a convenience store. I think they call it a camp store. And they have some provisions there. They have the gas station. They have laundry. And they have showers. And it really is a nice place to have those amenities.
They do have a visitor center there in that area, too.
So let's go on to tip number 6.
Okay.
Tip number 6, one of our favorite things to do in the park is hiking. And our best tip for you is...
Go early. Yeah, it depends on time of year, but when there's a lot of crowds, it's best to go early because the parking is not that... There's not a lot of parking out there for summer. Well, especially in the Chisos Basin area because they don't want to carve out parking because they're trying to conserve the land up there, so they don't want to make... But there is... you have to go early. We went to the Lost Mine Trail, right? Is that what it's called? We drove up there and we did that hike. We got there at 7 in the morning, just when the sun was coming up, and there was like 4 or 5 different cars in the parking lot. And by the time we got all our stuff together and we started getting ready to hike, it was almost filled up. It was almost like everyone was trying to get up there about 7 o'clock. So, but it was beautiful. It was such a beautiful day, and the sun was coming up, and the mountains, and the hike was nice. Is of course uphill to a peak and then back. It took us 3.5 hours, so it was a pretty long hike for us.
Yeah, we stop a lot because we're taking so many pictures, and I have to look down when I'm hiking so I don't trip, but then I have to stop to look up and admire the views.
Yeah.
And this was our first time to try trekking poles. We'd seen so many people use them, and we did a little research. We bought some that aren't too expensive, and we tried those, and we absolutely love them. We found them to be really helpful. You're using your upper body to help you propel as you're going uphill, and as you're going downhill, it really helps protect the knees. So I think that we're going to be using those here on out, especially if there's any kind of elevation. And that trail, I don't remember the elevation change, but it's...
I don't know. It was like 11 or 1200 gain elevation, if I remember right. But yeah, we did some other hikes too. The window view trail, that's a paved trail, short trail. It's accessible.
Up by the Chisos Basin.
Yeah, it's up in the Chisos Basin. Really pretty views. We did the Windows Trail, which was a longer version next to that went all the way out to the window and back. And that was sort of out, going down and coming back. It was uphill, so going downhill, going out, and then coming up.
And
so
then
it's a little
uphill,
bit, And then the Elena Canyon was a really nice one too. That you know, we didn't have trouble with parking there. We didn't have to be there at 7 o'clock. But you just got to be aware that there could be parking issues.
At Santa Elena.
Yeah, Santa Elena.
So now tip number 7 is the Ross Maxwell Scenic Drive, not to miss.
Yeah, that's an excellent drive. It's on the west side of the park. And it's just a nice drive. They have a lot of pullovers, lookouts as you go. A very beautiful area, a lot of history, a lot of information that you can learn as you go through this. And it ends up down at the Santa Elena Canyon hiking trail. But there's also a visitor center down there. There's also a town, I call it a ghost town. There's really, a town's not there anymore. It's called Castellan.
Castellan.
Is that what I said? Okay, I said it right? Okay. They have a visitor center. They don't have gas down in that road, so you got to make sure you're filled up to get down there. And then, like I said, the Santa Elena Trail or Canyon is beautiful up through there to do that hike. And then there's a picnic area too where we had picnic. So bring your food because there's really nowhere. There's a convenience store, but there's not really anything in there that you'd want to eat. I mean, it's for it's for emergencies is what it is.
And they have a bathroom there too. So
and it's for that Cottonwood Campground, probably for most of that area down there. So that was beautiful down there.
And after going down the Ross Maxwell Trail, you will pass the Castellan Visitor Center, which I really enjoyed. It has a number of historic relics and even some buildings. There's the Magdalena building, and that housed a lady by the name of Magdalena Silvis. And she really just impressed me. She was there in the early 1900s, and she was a widowed mother who raised 5 children there on her own while she worked for the La Harmonia Company, and she lived there 30 years. But this area was a floodplain, and they used to grow all different kinds of crops. So there was even an army camp there, the Santa Elena camp, established in 1916. But it was such an interesting meld of cultures from the U.S. and Mexico, and then indigenous people as well. So definitely worth the stop. There's also a bathroom there, but you can pick up some souvenirs or pick up a snack if you want to, but that was a really cool place to stop. And again, there's picnic areas along the way near Santa Elena, and there's not a whole lot of opportunities for food, so we just decided it was best for us just to stop and make our own picnic, and you couldn't ask for better views.
Yeah, right on the Rio Grande, so it was nice.
Also on that Ross Maxwell Scenic Drive, there are several places that are accessible. So you can pull over, and if you're in a wheelchair or walker, there are some places that have ramps, so you can still enjoy the views. Tip number 8, don't miss the Big Bend Ranch State Park, which is adjacent to Big Bend National Park.
Yeah, it's on the west side of Big Bend National Park. It's a very short drive. Actually, you go through a couple of little towns that we're going to talk about. They have a nice visitor center for that state park. We have a state park pass, so we didn't have to pay to go into the park. There's really not a gate or anything to go into it. It's just a road that goes to Presidio. But if you pull over and you hike or do day use stuff, you have to fill out a little form and pay $5.
They have a self-serve station.
Yeah, we were able to get a little sticker for our windshield because we had a state pass. But the visitor center, it was very nice. You can watch a film. They have a lot of good information. They have a nature trail. Is that what you call that?
Yeah, they have an accessible trail that is beautiful, very well done. And it's an interpretive trail, so it teaches you all about the different plants that are in the area. They also have a little bit more ambitious trail that goes up behind the visitor center, where you can look down and have just an amazing view. We did a couple of trails while we were there. One was the Hoodoo Trail.
Right.
It's not that
has a few
exciting.
hoodoos, but it was a nice little hike. It was short.
And also a short hike was Closed Canyon, which was a slot canyon. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, it was a beautiful canyon.
But it's still easy. If you're with kids, that would be an easy hike to do.
Yeah.
And it's $5 to get in for day use, and not including children under 13. They are free.
Yeah, but it's such a beautiful drive through that park too, that state park.
So tip number 9 is think about staying in a nearby community like Terlingua or Lajitas or Studi Butte.
Yeah, which is really right next to each other, all three of those. It's on the west side. Good place to stay outside the park if you want to do day trips into the park and drive in there and do whatever and then come back for where you're staying. That way you don't have to stay in the park if you want hookups and you want a lot more restaurants and other things that are available there.
We stayed at Maverick Ranch RV Park. Did I say that right? Maverick Ranch?
I think so. I think that's what it's called.
And we found it to be really nice. It has a lot of pull-through spots. It has a clubhouse, a beautiful pool.
Wonderful
pickleball court, fire rings, and a lot of amenities. And how much
the showers were nice. The laundry was nice. We paid probably around $65 a night, so it wasn't ridiculous for such a nice. And it was I would call that a resort.
Yes.
The camp. I mean, it's in the desert, so the campsites are more like rocks and gravel and things like that. So those are not anything special, but the whole facility was really nice.
You will get some dust on your car when you're traveling to Big Bend.
You will. And it was quiet. It was quiet out there too.
It was very nice. Also across the road is Lajitas Golf Resort. If you've got friends that you're traveling with who don't want to camp, they can stay in this very nice resort. Beautiful hotel. They have dining and a spa, a theater, of course, very expensive golf, but with beautiful views.
Yeah.
They have an amphitheater. So check out the Lajitas Golf Resort if that's something you want to do.
Right.
When you're in Lajitas, make sure you say hello to the mayor.
Yeah, and Lajitas consists of the resort and the mayor and a little convenience store, and that's about it. The mayor, is a goat, so it looked a little sickly, but you better get there quick so you can say hi to him before it's too late.
I figured there's more than one mayor that has
Probably.
there. Also in the area is Terlingua Ghost Town, which for a ghost town actually is fairly lively. There's a number of restaurants, galleries, shops there, and we ate at the Starlight Theater, which used to be a theater. It's now a restaurant. They have live music on the weekends. I understand it's hard to get into on the weekends, and some people will wait even up to a couple of hours. They don't take reservations, but we went on a weeknight, went early, and we didn't have to wait. But it was very nice. It used to be a mining town, and that's why they had a theater there. But the mines have long since closed down. But there are also different restaurants. We went to a barbecue restaurant and a pizza place there while we were there with friends. They even had gluten-free pizza there at that place. I really enjoyed it. There are also some places to get groceries in the area. There is the Lajitas General Store.
Oh, yeah.
And that is run by the resort, and it has a lot of nice things. It has coffee and has a bakery, but the prices were pretty high, and they do have gas there.
Yeah, it was for diesel. It was, I think, a little over $6 a gallon. So it's very high. So if you really have to have it, you can get some.
But we found in Studi Butte the Cottonwood General Store. And it's not very far from that area, and it had a really nice selection of groceries and camp items, and the prices were very reasonable. And across the street is a gas station.
Yeah, pretty much across the street. Yeah, and Studi Butte just sort of bumps right up to the entry of the national park there. So when you leave the west side of the national park, you go right into Studi Butte, which is it's probably 1 mile long, so it's not a very long town. And then that's where you get into Terlingua.
Several RV parks in Studi Butte
there's
also.
about 5 or 6 or so. Tip number 10 is when you're especially on the west side of Big Bend National Park, there's other opportunities to visit other towns that are nearby. You have Alpine, which is about 60 miles from Studi Butte and where we were staying, 60 miles north. So a lot of times you'll come through Alpine on the way to Big Bend, and they have Alpine has several. It's a fairly big town, so it has all the grocery stores and everything you would think it'd have. It has a museum that we went to, which was the Big Bend National Park Museum, and it's in the Sul Ross State University campus. And we spent a couple hours there. It was a really good museum to go through. And if you go through that area, I'd recommend stopping, and especially if you're on the way to Big Bend, to stop and go through that museum. There's also other towns around there. Marfa, I think most people have heard of Marfa. We did that as a day trip when we were staying at Fort Davis State Park, which is just 20 minutes from Marfa. And Marfa has a nice, we ate dinner there one night, and they also have a nice hotel, which is called the
Hotel Paisana, which is a historic hotel, really gorgeous. And there is memorabilia in the lobby. You can just walk through, even if you're not staying there, go in and look at the memorabilia from when the movie Giant was filmed with Elizabeth Taylor, James Dean, Rock Hudson. And also you want to try to find the Marfa Mystery Lights. And there's a designated area where you can drive out to and see if you can see the lights at dusk. We didn't see the lights the night we were there, but I have seen them before. To me, it looked like people were lighting campfires off in the distance, but the fires kept moving around. So that's what I saw when I was there. We didn't see anything this time, but they are a mystery, and they still don't know exactly what causes them. And also when you're in Fort Davis, we stayed at the state park. They have good hiking. There's a beautiful lodge that was just completed and remodeled, the Indian Lodge, and that was built by the Civilian Conservation Corps. Also, we went to the McDonald Observatory. That's a very short drive from this area, where we took a day trip. You can do a day trip or a night trip there. a tour, I should say, and we saw the giant telescopes on the daytime tour, and that was really interesting. Also at Fort Davis is the National Historic Site, and you can view the historic park. They have the buildings open.
It's an old fort, isn't it?
Yes, an old fort, thank you. But they have information about how that was used for quite a few years.
Yeah, that was really interesting. We spent a few hours there. Yeah, that was.
And your National Park Pass will get you in there as well. So the last place we stopped at was...
Yeah, after we left Fort Davis State Park, about 40 minutes down the road was Balmorhea, and that was on the way back to where our house was. And we stayed there one night, and that is we've never been there, so we wanted to stop and check that out. It
was a one-night stop for us. We could definitely stay a couple days, but we enjoyed the San Solomon Springs. So they have a pool there that is about 1.3 acres, and every day it pumps in 15 million gallons of spring water. So you can enjoy the pool. We did. It was February, but there's a constant temperature of 72 to 76 degrees in the water. And it was like a 70-degree day. I don't remember, but it was nice enough for us to get in. We were the only ones for most of the time. There was one other swimmer, I think, while we were there, but we enjoyed it very much. You may have some other visitors, though, some little fishies that may kind of nibble at you a little bit, and some turtles, but they don't bite. And so it goes down to 25 feet in depth, and that was also built by the Civilian Conservation Corps, the CCC. Did a great job, but this park has been recently remodeled. They have a lodge, and they also have really nice RV parking where you can come in and pull through.
Yeah, and the full hookups too. And I didn't mention that Fort Davis Mountain State Park had full hookups too, which was great for us.
You know what else I should mention about Fort Davis State Park? We loved the hiking, but we also enjoyed the ranger program. They had a dark sky presentation by a volunteer, and they had probably the best bird blinds we'd ever seen. And we saw javelinas doing their thing behind the bird blind, and all kinds of birds. So if you're a birder, or if you just like nature and appreciate that, you will really enjoy the effort that they've taken to make this a special trip, a special experience for all of the visitors there. So don't wait as long as we have to get to Big Bend National Park. Do remember that you have to pay an entry fee of $30.
A day if you don't have the America the Beautiful Park Pass, which we have the lifetime one for seniors.
If you're 62 and over, you pay one-time fee and you get that pass for the rest of your life, which is the best bargain around.
Yeah.
And then it also gives you half-price camping for Corps of Engineer parks. We've already got a couple of reservations later this year, and we're paying $13 a night for camping.
Yeah, and some of them have partial hookups, and I think we're getting full hookups on one of them. So that's nice for $13 a night.
So I hope these tips have helped you in your planning, and we hope that you have an amazing and safe trip to Big Bend National Park.